So here we will see 4 different return types of action methods. The first one is the void. The second is for primitive and complex types. After that, the return type HttpResponseMessage. The last one is the interface IHttpActionResult. And finally, we will create our own custom result type. Well, I think this should be smaller, like this, and put here, maybe. Oh, you are already here. So in this video we will see how Web API converts the return value from a controller action into a HTTP response message, which means that for void it will return empty 204 no content. For primitive or complex types it will write the serialized value into the response body 200 OK. For the HTTP response message type it will convert it directly into the HTTP response message. To IHttpActionResult, it will call the execute async to convert the object into HTTP response message, and then it will do exactly the same thing as here in HTTP response message. The first type is the return type void, and like we saw in the table, it simply returns an empty HTTP response with status code 204. No content. An example can be action method that is void. Okay, this is a get. When we do the request, we get this response, status 204 no content. The next type is the return type primitive or complex types, and Web API uses media type formatters to serialize the return value. The serialized value then is inserted into the response body, and it will return a status code of 200. An example can be something like this. We have a numbers action method called numbers that returns a list of integers. We do our request, we get a 200 OK status code, and we get something like this. This is the serialized value of the list. This return type, primitive or complex, has a problem. It cannot return directly the error codes like 404, and a workaround for this problem is returning an exception, throwing an exception like HTTP response exception. Back to the properties, it will use the accept header in the request to choose the formatter. This is the content negotiation part where it will choose, for example, you say I accept XML, then Web API will do the content negotiation, and if it can give you XML, it will give you XML. If not, it will give you JSON or whatever it can uses to send you the response. Okay. The next type is the HTTP response message. This type converts the return value directly into an HTTP response message, and it allows us to control the response message headers like the cache control, the date, the connection, and cookies. For example, in comparison with the previous return type, primitive and complex types, this type, the HTTP response message, can return a 404 error directly. Okay. Another important thing about this return type is if we pass a primitive or complex type to create a response method, the method that will create a HTTP response message, Web API will use media type formatters to write the serialized model, the serialized object, or the serialized primitive type into the response body. Okay, and like in the previous case, the return type primitive or complex types, Web API will use the accept header in the request to choose the formatter. If you say that you accept XML, and if Web API cannot give you XML for some reason, it will try to give you JSON or something else. Okay. And the example for this return type can be something like this. action method returns a HTTP response message as numbers, that is a list of integer 1, 2, 3. The response, we create a response using this method, and we say that the status is okay, and we provide the numbers. Also, we say that the cache control has a max age of 5 minutes. So we do the request, we get a 200 okay, we get the serialized list, and finally we get the cache control with max age of 300 milliseconds, 5 minutes. Before doing some code, we have the last one, IHttpActionResult. This appeared on Web API 2.1, I think, and this is actually an interface that defines a factory for HTTP response messages. It has advantages like simplifies testing our controllers, it moves common logic for creating HTTP responses into separate classes, and it hides low-level details of constructing our responses. As just one method, execute async, and it creates a HTTP response message instance. Also, it converts the object into an HTTP response message. We don't have to do everything by ourselves, so Web API provides this class API controller that defines helper methods that return built-in action results. This is some examples. The OK that has a 200 status code, not found 404, bad request 400, unauthorized 401, and JSON 200 OK. This is just a set of the built-in action results that we can use. There are a lot more. And the example for this case is this. We have this action method that has a return type of IHttpActionResult, and here we are using the OK built-in action result. And we do our request, we get a 200 OK, and we get the value like this, 1, 2, 3. Now is the part of doing some code, so we can create our custom result type using the interface IHttpActionResult. Let's do the code. Here in Visual Studio, in our Hello World project, we have this action results controller. These have actually the examples that I showed in the slides. Remember, as always, you can download the source code of this project. I will leave a link in the description for that. Okay, so let's start here. We need first a class that will implement the interface IHttpActionResult. So I call this myResult, and it will implement IHttpActionResult. Like I said, click here and implement the interface. It will create this method, execute async, like I said in the slides. It will return a task of HTTP response message and receives a cancellation token. Next, we need to create a constructor for this, so ctor tab, and we will have property that is a string and the name is value, another property that is a HTTP request message, and this is the request. In our constructor we receive a string that is the value and another HTTP request message that is the request, and we assign to the value v and to the request r, just that. Here in the execute async, var response is equals to new HTTP response message, and we will say that the content is equals to new string content, and we provide the value plus, for example, my result request message, and we say that is equals to the request. Okay, after this we just have to return the task dot from result, and we provide the response, just that, this response. Now let's use this return type. Okay, so I go here in our controller, action result controller, and here in the end we say that we have a route, we need a route for this, and it will be my result result. This is a HTTP GET, and we have a public IHttpActionResult that is called my result, and it just simply returns the new my result. We provide the string tests and we provide the request. Just that. Now let's test this. Run here, go to the Postman and send the request, and we get here a test my result. The implementation was very simple. First, we needed to create a class that implements the interface IHttpActionResult. This class has a constructor that receives a string vol and a HTTP request message, and also it has to implement the IHttpActionResult. So we need to have a executeAsync method. Inside this method, we just have to create a HttpResponseMessage. We provide the content and the request message. After that, we just get from the result this response. The usage is very simple. We just have to create a very common action method and just returns IHttpActionResult, and we return a new instance of my result, providing the string and the request. The call is the same as in the other scenarios. We just call the address and we get this result, test my result, and a status code of 200 OK. This is the end, and as always, thank you for watching.